What is going on, guys? My name is Feeds, and welcome to Feeds Mindset, episode number 29 with Sterling Haze. Sterling, how are you? Welcome in.
Great. It's a Sunday, and, everybody gets the heebie-jeebies about Monday, but, I'm looking forward to this week.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good. It's never a good thing to kind of go into a week already feeling kind of down because it doesn't really help anything. I feel like a lot of people that could really change their perspective if they're just like, you know what,
Right.
Monday's going to be a good day. And it's all about the way you perceive it for sure. So one of the first things that I always do in every single one of my podcasts, obviously I focus a lot on mental health, and a big factor of that is breaking the grounds and getting to understand people and just being able to reach out. That was something I struggled with. I already told you this before we had started this.
Right.
Something I struggled just starting this podcast was just this communication, reaching out. What are they going to say? What are they going to do? So I always like to kind of point out, my friendship level with whoever the guest is, and me and you are completely random people, right?
Completely random. You DM'd me on Twitter, and I was like looking at it, and I was like, this is actually dope, And, it was very, also professional. I love the text you sent. Whenever we met in Discord, even before, it was awesome, So I've been really looking forward to this.
Yeah, and obviously I do appreciate all your time to be able to be here today. But like I said, I really just like making a point because that's my ultimate thing I'm trying to get to anybody that's watching this that struggles with making friends or networking or reaching out. It's just a simple old corny saying of if we can do it, so can you. Again,
sure.
I do appreciate your time, and we'll definitely get into who you are and where you came from. But as of right now, kind of explain to anybody from your community that's watching or anybody in general, how would you say who is Sterling as of current day?
Sterling. Okay. I am a 23-year-old streamer from North Carolina. I am in the Air Force, so right now I'm actually stationed in Florida. I've been here for about a year. I've been in the Air Force for about a year and a half. I'm just the type of person, I love to keep the positive vibes going. I mean, yesterday while I was streaming, I was playing COD, but we were just vibing out to a whole bunch of music. And gameplay was horrible, but the music and the vibes were just amazing. And I feel like that's all that matters, is that you're having a good time no matter what you're doing. So I just like to keep the positive vibes going and make sure everybody's, having a good time.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say Call of Duty is the main game you play, or are you kind of more variety?
I play the majority of Call of Duty, yes, because right now, since I'm using an Xbox and using a capture card to my MacBook, I kind of can't play a lot of the games that other streamers do, but play a little bit of Fortnite. Some of my friends try to get me into Apex, but I just suck at it, so I'm just there for basically moral support. I love to play community games like Among Us. Oh my gosh, Fall Guys. Me and my friends have been getting into Party Animals here recently. I mean, they're just a lot of fun games, and it's really awesome to still be able to play them with them, even though I'm on Xbox and they're on PC, but it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Apex is never a game that I could get into. I had so many friends trying to reach out to be like, yo, you should play. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you can find somebody else.
It makes my head hurt. I feel like I'm trying to focus on so many things at once, and oh, goodness.
Yeah, I definitely understand. So you had mentioned, obviously, with your Xbox to the capture card to the MacBook. So it's fair to say that this is not your ideal setup that you want in the future, right?
Oh, no. But, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And just to be able to start where I'm at now and knowing that other streamers can also do the same, because, some people are like, oh, I don't have a PC, I can't stream. And it's like, well, you can. Do not let that get you down, because I've known people that have started just from their Xbox with no face cam, hardly being able to see their chat. Then you have me that started with the MacBook, and it's just, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
The first time that I, just like everybody, I'd stream without face cam, all that stuff. But the first time that I really started understanding okay, maybe I can do this, because I had the same excuse too, oh, I don't have a PC, I don't have a professional mic, my camera is doo-doo, all this stuff. I was playing, so Black Ops 4 is definitely one of the games that really highlighted who Feeds was. I arguably, in my point of view, was one of the best snipers on that game at the time. I would post tons of montages and just play with a bunch of people, community games and all that stuff. And I would stream off my PS4 with the PS4 camera at the top of my TV, And then I bought on Amazon this big adapter that you could plug into the USB ports on the PlayStation to give you more USB ports. And
Right.
I think I had my headset, my speaker, my camera was connected to it, and then I think my microphone. And so I had like this crazy setup and all these different wires all going to my PlayStation 4 while streaming it, and didn't have the best internet. And I still remember there was one of my most favorite clips I ever hit on Black Ops 4. I had it was a 5-on head with an elo side of the Locust.
Right.
But you could see, like, when I was doing the clip, you could see like the awful lights in the background, the horrible camera quality, and the audio was like, oh, oh, and like you couldn't hear nothing. Like it was just a bunch of ruffled sounds. But everybody was loving it. I was getting tons of likes. Be like,
Yeah.
oh, like that's insane. Like I can't believe you hit that. And that definitely like opened my eyes. Be like, like okay, like maybe I
Yeah.
can do that. And so I guess kind of a question I would ask is do you feel like people make excuses because not because they're lazy and don't want to do it, but because they're scared of putting out bad quality? Do you feel like that's kind of a big reason why people don't kind of start out streaming with less, even though they could?
Yeah, I feel like that's part of the thing is like, people are scared that they're not going to put out the best content. You see all these big creators that have like these huge stream rooms and like all these really good quality cameras and stuff. And, I'll meet people like from my work and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I stream on the side. And they're like, really? You have like, what kind of PC do you have? And I'm like, I don't have a PC. I have a MacBook and a capture card with wires going everywhere, like you were just talking about. And like even if I want to play without streaming, I have to like unhook certain cables from other places so it'll go directly.
Yeah.
And it's just like people are shocked whenever I tell them that, and then I show them like some VODs from my streams and they're like, that's from your MacBook? And I'm like, that's what I'm saying. You never know until you try. It doesn't matter about like the quality of the camera or like the quality even of your gameplay. I mean, it's just about who you are and your personality and what you put out there as a creator. And once you get past the spot of being scared to just do it, because I always know, I remember the first time I hit that start streaming button, I feel like everyone remembers the first time they hit that. You are scared. I mean, I know big streamers now, they're still scared to hit the start streaming button because you're starting it and there's no stopping.
Yeah.
But once you get past that and realize how much fun you can have and all the different communities you can meet and all the different people that like actually like what you're doing, it just takes like that weight off your shoulder and you're having a good time with it.
Yeah, and I think another good note that I'm thinking while you're talking is I feel like a lot of people struggle with mental health and their own battles and stuff
Right.
and their own reasons for why they can't do things. But I feel like a big thing in this community that a lot of people lack is just being proud of themselves. And I really do think if people started out with nothing or the bare minimum, and then a couple months pass by, they get their money up or they get blessed or their community or whatever, then they can get their setup. Being able to be proud knowing that you didn't start when you was better, but you started when you know that you was kind of at your worst, I feel like that would really make such a big impact, and it honestly can lead to giving more people a lot more motivation for themselves in their stream. And with your friends too. I mean, I feel like that's kind of and I'd explain this to you a little bit off camera, before we started. My favorite thing about the podcast is watching your community come and tap in and get to understand Sterling and see where she comes from. And it's the same rule applies to what we're talking about. Because if you have a friend that's really with you and they play with you all the time and they love it, and then one day they wake up and your face cam's on and they can actually see your gameplay and stuff, they're like, like pop off, like let's go, and like they get so happy. And I feel like if a lot of people would just do it, I feel like it's just not as bad as they think it is.
It's really not. I mean, you get terrified. Like I'm pretty sure the first time I did, I was like shaking as I like went to go hit it. I was like, oh my gosh, what if people don't like me? What if people don't like what I put out? And then just to like see where I was at and where I'm at now, because I did start on Twitch and then I had joined the military. So I had already got past that point at one point. I started on Twitch, joined the military, had to stop streaming for a while. I didn't get to start back until this July because I had finally got settled at my new duty station, like getting some work stuff out of the way that I knew was going to hinder me from being able to stream. And I had to like reset up my overlays and I ended up transferring over to Kick to start off again. And whenever I did that, like the first time hitting that button again, it was just like, here comes the shakes. Like, oh gosh, this is a whole new group of people. You know, I've made some different friends since then. I don't know how it's going to go. And then just like, I have not looked back from that since July.
Yeah.
I absolutely haven't.
Definitely, yeah, and clearly you've came, pretty far. I was, as something I always do before I reach out to people, I'll look in just a little bit and stuff, because that's obviously the only thing I require is face cam. But the other thing is I do still like to know that whoever I'm on the podcast with is an aspiring creator. They want to do things, want to make a change, want to make an impact, better themselves. And yeah, you've definitely grown yourself a nice little community, and so I'm proud of you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So yeah, so we've obviously went on a little bit about all this current stuff. So now I want to kind of finally go back in time and ask you some questions that may or may not be hard, because it's way back when. So we'll talk about gaming, then streaming, and then we'll talk about your name a little bit. But let's start out, before the streaming, before the space, before YouTube, before any of that. Let's just talk about gaming in general. How did you get into gaming, and how did it come from just something that was fun to play to a passion, and now where sometimes you wake up every day to play it?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I grew up with older brothers. I have 2 older brothers. One's name's Chris and one named Dylan. They were gaming freaks. I'm talking like my older brothers would like mod their Xboxes to where it had like certain lights glowing out of them and, all that cool stuff. And then like my brother had his own clan and like we all became a little part of it. And it was just like, I think it was something growing up because, you got those sibling feuds.
Yeah.
You got the sibling feuds. And I think that was one thing when I started to get interested in it. And my brother's like, no, you can't play. You're a little girl, the usual brothers. And I think once they realized like I was interested in it, like it kind of grew our relationship a little closer.
Yeah.
And from then, like I was just gaming with my brothers all the time. I was meeting people online. Like it was awesome, and I don't think my brothers realized how much of an impact they had on me, like getting into video games, but they really did.
Yeah, definitely. So was there a game that kind of like highlighted for you? Was there a certain game that you'll always cherish forever? Like growing up as a kid, you're like, man, like I wish I could just forget that game and play it all over again.
Oh, goodness. There's so many. I mean, Borderlands. I loved Borderlands growing up. Me and my siblings used to play Little Big Planet. So this is like the time I had a PS3. We would play Little Big Planet. We would play Borderlands. We would play BioShock. And now if we take it way back to when we had the OG Xbox, we used to play this game called Fusion Frenzy. We all had our own little characters that we always used. You weren't taking the other sibling's character and, you were just trying to win. And that was something I do miss those days, just sitting there playing Fusion Frenzy, not even knowing what, like, I don't even think streaming was really around at this time. And, it's just, you look back at those days and you do miss it. But I think for one that really like impacted me for myself though, and it's very controversial because not a lot of people like this COD, is Call of Duty Ghost. I loved Call of Duty.
You're talking to the perfect person.
Right? Okay, awesome. Listen, because I still talk to people that I met on Call of Duty Ghost. I can literally picture the maps in my head. The maps were awesome to me. I loved the guns. I still remember the Ripper that everybody always wanted, but you had to get a certain pack.
Yeah, had to have the DLC.
Oh my gosh, like Strike Zone. Oh, all of like the maps, And it was just, I think that's when meeting other people and becoming a part of like other communities or, really getting into the gaming, just me without my siblings, really hit for me. That will forever be my favorite, like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And so many people hated it.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved it.
I'll bring up my little story, when we kind of get to the portion where we're talking about our names, because that's kind of how Ghost plays into me. But Ghost is my favorite COD of all time. It was my first ever Call of Duty that I started on, and just the amount of fun playing. I hated Search and Destroy. I could not stand Search and Destroy. When I seen Search and Rescue, I was like, this game is golden. You know, like
Search
I
and
was like
rescue
holding it
was so much
in the palm of my
fun.
hand, you know, like trying to like
Oh,
slide into tags and try to like dodge the
yes.
bullets and stuff to get it. It was just so awesome.
Oh,
And
so much fun.
Ghost was a big highlight for me because obviously, you know, I've sniped, you know, all my gaming career and
Mhm.
stuff. I mean, that's, you know, my name is Feed, you know, I snipe a lot in a lot of CODs. And Ghost was definitely the first Call of Duty that ever brought it out of me, and just quick scoping somebody or a long distance one, or even like hard scoping somebody just like crazy across the
Oh,
map and
yeah.
hitting them, and they're like, "How? Like you're cheating?" Blah 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 blah. And it was just great. It was such a
What
great
is
time
the
frame to
map
be
that
in.
had the castle? What is the map that had the castle in the
Stonehaven.
ruins? Yes, that was my favorite one to snipe on.
And you could
Oh
shoot the
my
gate and
god.
it fall down on
So much,
people.
yes, it was so much fun. Like it had just so many little things like that. Like and there's not a COD that I can shoot a gate and it like crush
Yeah,
somebody now.
I
I
think
wish I could do that.
one of
You're
my
just
one of my favorite things about COD Ghost was the map changing when you got the Kim Strike. I
yes.
think it was Strike Zone. I want to say one other map, but Strike Zone was the normal map. And you would have, for anybody that don't know what I'm talking about, you have to have 25 kills, just like a nuke. But instead of just getting it and the game ends, just the whole map would change. It would
The
just
whole
be a
map
destroyed
changes.
version of the map, and you would play like nothing happened. You would get
Mhm.
6 kills or however many was on the enemy team. You'd get that amount of kills, and you just play on like nothing happened. And it was just so sick. And just running around with the tack with the shotguns and just blasting
Yes.
people and hiding behind your buddies with riot shields. Like,
Area in the strike.
yeah, it was crazy. And they even had a, I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the map, but one of them even had an elevator that you could go into.
Oh my gosh. This is not gonna leave my head until after I remember. So if I message you later a name of a map, just know.
Yeah, I mean, I
Remember.
could easily look it up right now, but yeah, that was
Oh,
fun too. Being able to be in an elevator with a bunch of your friends and a bunch of
yep.
riot shields and be like, "Oh, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming." Yeah, it was great. Yeah. So that's awesome. So, you know, I'm glad that we kind of covered that in your past, and kind of same thing for me. The two biggest games, like family wise, that really connected us together. On the Nintendo 64, we had, I think it was like Pokemon Battles or something like that. It had like a little mini game on it, and we would play. We would have this $5 championship belt that we bought from the dollar store when things were cheap at the time. And we would compete for it every weekend. We would play, and then whoever won the weekend, we would go to school, do our normal stuff, and that would be what we would look forward to on the weekends. Like, who's going to get the title next week, you know? And Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero was one of the hugest things, specifically with my sister. My sister loved the shit out of Guitar Hero and playing it and beating each other and be like, "Oh, I got 100% difficulty on that," and then she'd just be like, me, you know?
that's how it was for me and my siblings. I completely forgot about Guitar Hero. My siblings always made fun of me because when I played, I only used one finger unless it was the double notes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like going around with one finger doing it. So they always made fun of me. Or if we played, it's not the Guitar Hero, but like the band version.
Yeah.
What it?
The
I
Rock
don't know
Band.
why I can't think. Yeah, Rock Band.
Mm-hmm.
I was always the drum set. My brothers were always the guitar. My little sister would be like the vocals. Like it was, we had our own little band. And I think that's another thing that got me into, because I started playing the drums when I was in 3rd grade, which people never expect out of me.
Yeah.
And that's probably what got me into it right there.
Oh yeah, 100%. I never got into it, but I could imagine, you know, being in a household where you're not allowed to be loud and you get this imaginary drum set, you're like, da 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 da, you're just going crazy. So yeah, but yeah, those were definitely games that kind of, at a family aspect, brought us together. But yeah, COD Ghost is definitely a big highlight for me as well, and I think that's kind of crazy because I feel like there's such a small percentage of people that actually like Ghost, and there's a ton of people like, yeah, Ghost is a good COD, and it's like, actually, like, can we hold a conversation about it, or are you just saying it just to be on the trend?
Exactly. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
It's so good. So many people hated it, and and it wasn't even like, that's not, when it comes to COD for me, it's not about the game itself if I like it. Like people be like, "Oh, I hated Vanguard," or "I hate Cold War." And I'm like, I actually love them. And it wasn't the maps for me. It's always the people that I meet on those games that hold a place in my heart and then I continue to stay with. And like just, you know, the talks, you know, it's great. I've loved everyone that I've ever met and became friends with on any of the CODs.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah,
great.
Definitely, and we'll kind of come back to Ghost just a little bit when we get into that portion, when it's like relevant, because I like to try to stay on, not you, just like me in general. Like for my topics, I try to stay on topic with it. So we'll definitely come back to it. Before we get into the streaming aspect, when did you start, like, we've talked about all the older games and stuff, when did it start getting to kind of like the, like the now games, like being in this time and it kind of being more relevant and like these hot topic games and YouTube videos and content and stuff, like leading up to streaming? Was there games that you got into? Like, was it just COD, that you kind of helped progress you into getting into streaming, or how did that work?
COD did play a big factor because that's what I mostly played. It was what my siblings played. We were all big into like the whole sniping thing and just like running together as a group. I did continue to play Borderlands for a while. I
Hmm.
loved the storyline of it, but it's still COD. COD was always the big part for me. We did play a lot of Fortnite growing up too, so I still play Fortnite. I'm ready for the new season to come out because they're taking it back to like the
Yeah.
OG Fortnite. So I'm excited to see how that goes. I feel like it'll be like walking down memory lane.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
So right before we get into streaming, was there like a console that you had started off streaming? Obviously, I'm sure you didn't have your MacBook set up and stuff when you started.
Oh no, I had my Xbox 360.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that's what I had before. And then I upgraded to the one, and then that's whenever I decided to buy a capture card and do all that because my brother is also a streamer.
Hmm.
He kind of was the one that made me step into that because I don't know how like the technology and stuff. I didn't know what a capture
Right.
card was, and so I ended up ordering. And I'm like, is this a good one? And he helped me pick one out and then helped me kind of like understand how to use it before I left home. And, if I didn't have him to push me to start and like watching how it was going for him, then I probably would have started at some point knowing like the communities and the people I've met, but I wouldn't have got into it when I did if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely sounds like they played a big role in that upcoming and stuff. So yeah, shout out to them. I think it's kind of, a lot of us, a lot of us have siblings and stuff, just like with me, I have a brother and sister, but we did, game like I just told you, but they never like into the world that we're in now. Like they didn't really have a part in it. It's just kind of like memories in the back of my head. So it is definitely cool that they was kind of involved in this type of environment versus just a normal gaming and just buying something and having fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's kind of get into the streaming. So when you started streaming, you was on your Xbox 360. What did you just kind of go live one day? Was it a friend that showed you? Was it your brothers that you said that had helped you out? How did that function?
My brother helped me out a little bit. I had finally got like a little bit of a setup, and it was when I moved into my grandparents to help them. This was about 3 years ago, honestly. Wow, it doesn't even feel like it's been that long, but I had got the capture card and I've been playing for a while, and my brother was like, "You need to start streaming. Like, you're not bad at the game. Your personality is weird." So he was like, "You need to start streaming it." And I'm like, "Well, what if I'm not good?" And he's like, "You're gonna do it." Like at that point, it wasn't a you need to. I was getting pressured by my brother. You're gonna do it. And it's like, okay. So we finally like I bought the little stuff that I needed. I had set up my MacBook. I was nervous about because like the OBS is on my MacBook. I
Hmm.
have just like a little bit of a monitor that I hook up my Xbox to. I had a nice little setup, and I was postponing hitting the live button for a while. I would like look at it and I'm like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then finally I hit it. And, starting off can always get you down a little bit because, nobody knows who you are. You have like the friends that you've made, which kind of helped me out a little bit that I'd already had friends in like the communities and stuff. So like they would pop in and stuff. And some people let it get them down, like, oh, I don't have people watching and stuff. But we all start from somewhere. At one point or another, we all had one or two viewers.
Yeah.
And that was the consistency. But once you get like past that and you stop caring about how many viewers you have, you'll look one day and you're just like, oh my God, I have 20 right now. Like, where did they come from? There's so many people talking in my chat. And that was something that was hard for me to get past because you try to be like other streamers or you try to like mimic what somebody else is doing because you're like, oh, they're doing good with it. And then I started to get past that and started to just focus on me. And I haven't looked back from that since.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, on that topic, you know, that kind of
Right.
leads me into my next question. It's actually kind of two questions, but they're both kind of relevant to the same thing. So the
Okay.
first one is, how does it feel to start with nothing and now? Obviously, I know we talked about you're not in your ideal setup now, but starting from nothing and now you've grown. Not even the fact that you've grown a community, but also of your setup that you want to have a lot better, and knowing that you have a community like that when a lot of people that have crazy setups are just not good at networking and stuff.
Right.
So how does it feel kind of knowing that you just started it for fun and you was nervous and now you have people that look forward to seeing you every day?
It's very relieving, you know. You really, unless you sit back and like look at it, you look at the people that like to send you a message, hey, are you going live today? Hey, are you going to be hopping on COD? Are you going to be hopping on Fortnite? It's just like you don't expect it. And then like you kind of get used to it for a little while until because you just feel like it's normal at that point. But if you really just like sit back and look at it, you see how much you've grown as a person and from like where you were at. And it's very relieving. And it just makes me happy to see other people happy to see what I'm doing, you know? Because I never expected someone to be like wondering when I'm going live or like to bring a smile on their face. And just knowing that I can do that for someone just makes it all worth it.
Yeah, definitely. So my second question on that, was there was there a time when you're in your streaming and you got your schedule and you're talking about going live and stuff, was there a time where you woke up one day and you're like, wow, like I've built this community?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel like I haven't made too much of a community of myself, but
Hmm.
rather I'm like a part of a bunch of little communities.
Yeah.
But there was one day, it was the first time I started streaming on Kick after I, took my break. And I had set up my Discord and I was like inviting all these people and I was a little nervous because I had always been a part of these little communities, but I had never seen those communities come together.
Yeah.
And like while I was making the Discord with one of my friends, like we were watching everyone interact in the Discord and it was just like, wow. It was so weird seeing all the communities that I was a part of come together for me and like talking and like joking around with each other. And it's like, wow, all these people are coming together from different sides and still are here for like one goal, because we all have a goal at the end of the day. And it's just really nice whenever you see more people come together and just have a good time that you
Yeah.
never expected. Because I was nervous at first because I was like, I'm a very diverse person. So like the groups I'm in are very diverse. So it's like watching one group come together with another group. It's kind of like when you sit back and you watch like a dog and a cat meet for the first time. You're like, "It's gonna go. Are they gonna be okay?" And then they're friends, and you're like, "Oh, thank God." That's literally how it felt because it's scary, You were like, what if my friends don't like each other or like and then it just reminds you that at the end of the day we all have one goal and we all have so much in common. And even so many differences can bring so many people together. And it's just like to watch that happen was unreal for me.
Yeah, I think a
Pretty stoked for
very
that.
I think a very big point on that as well is that, a lot of people like, you'll have your homies tabbed and you'll tab in everybody
Mhm.
like, hey, like checking. I do it all the time, but and I've said this a lot on previous podcasts, like sometimes streamers just need to take a day and be the viewer. And sometimes you just need to
Right.
not stream, not worry about it. And everybody's like, oh, like, well, if I don't stream today, then it could be my biggest day. And it's like, well, like, make it tomorrow. Cause like if you really are about it and you want your friends to grow, you'll take time for them, and it builds you as a
Exactly.
character. It's not even the fact of just having that that goodness inside you that's like I was there for my friend. It's just more so like it's just a two-way street. They tap into you, you tap into them. But what I'm kind of getting to off of that is that something that is not normalized at all is chatting with other people in the stream. Like, yeah, we'll all be in our
Oh yeah.
homies and we'll talk to them, be like, oh, hope you had a good stream and stuff. And you'll have some of those people that's like, oh, like, hey, Sterling, like, have no idea who they are. Like, hey, how are
Yeah.
you? And then you like a lot of people is just like, hey, what's up? And then they like close out the tab and they go on about their day. But like, I feel like it would change a lot of people's mentality if they'd be like, hey, how's your day? Like, how are you? Just
It
start
really
that
does.
conversation.
It definitely like boosted some up like people's spirits. Like yesterday when I was having I was having a really good stream yesterday,
Hmm.
and I was gonna end because I was gonna play poker with some of my other streamer friends while they streamed, and I was like, you know what, like this is going well. And my friend Platty, he was like, you got to keep going, like you can't stop. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. We're just gonna try because I'm on the MacBook. I have one screen, so
Hmm.
I'm trying to have the poker up, and I was looking at my chat on my phone
Yeah.
and like trying to figure it out, but it ended up working well. And, you know, at the end of my stream, I had ended up like rating out Platty. He had like gifted me 5 subs, you know, and I rated him out. And then while he was playing, I think I had gifted him 1 sub. And he was like, Sterling, you had a good day. Leave it at that. And I'm like, no, Platty, I'm going to support you like you support me always. You know, it's always about supporting each other and being there because just like if they're streaming, they're still just talking to you. You know, you're having that conversation. It's just like texting one of them or being on a phone call with them is the way I like to see it because you're still having that conversation. They're still paying attention to you. And you can talk about so much while somebody else is streaming. I love when people ask me like random questions while I'm streaming. And it like makes me think. And we
Yeah.
start a whole conversation on it, you know? Like if somebody would have came in and asked me, like, let's say you were in my chat and you had
Hmm.
asked me like what my favorite COD was, and I had said Ghost, and then we just started chatting
Yeah.
about it just like we did just now. You know, it's just the same aspect.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
so awesome to be
That's
able to
definitely
do that.
something a lot of people lack. There's so much
Hmm.
knowledge and things that you can prosper, selfishly if you would just
Yeah.
get out there and start a conversation. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, there's even business moves you could make. You could talk to somebody like, "Oh, like yeah, I'm starting a company." You're like, "Oh, like really? Like that's my rival," or like whatever,
Yeah.
like you could gain that information. Like the world is so small and people don't realize it.
Yes.
It really
That's
is.
literally what I was just thinking in my head as you said it, is the world is so small and you're connected to people in so many different ways without even realizing it. Like one of my friends that I went to tech school, he also games. Well, he's friends with a streamer. And I'm like, no way. Like I've seen that person and I know them and like we've talked and it's like you're connected to people without even knowing how unless you start that conversation of just random things.
Yeah, and I think
And it's
I
awesome.
think kind of the weird funny thing about it, my mom obviously she don't know nothing about the space. She's a Facebook person. She's on all
Right.
day, post her weird like memes and her like pictures. Just she has a fun time. But it's like on Facebook you have like who you're mutually following. On Twitter you kind of have that same
Yeah.
thing, who you're mutually following. And I feel like if that small little bit was like I know it would probably be a big task, but if that was implemented on like Twitch or Kick that you click on a random
Oh
chatter
yeah.
and they're streaming like, oh, like this person watches 4 other
They
people you
follow this
follow.
person. Yeah.
And because like a big thing, a part of my podcast, which I've told you already, is I like to create with like-minded people. I do outsource a
Right.
lot because I have to build up and get to know, but at the same time, I really do try to make sure that you do know somebody that I'm kind of comfortable with, because that way I know, like, if I support that person and they support you, then it's no question that, I shouldn't support you because my morals are aligned with theirs. And I really
Right.
do feel like that could be a big help. If you have somebody that
It's so
chat with
awesome.
and you're hitting up and you're thinking they're a good person and they don't, you follow like 200 people and they don't follow a single one, like that could be a red flag, and it's not saying
Yeah,
that it is, but at the same time, it would be an extra tool and resource for you to use.
exactly. Yeah. Like one thing, crazy thing that happened to me is I became a part of the Boom Squad, which is like the people that I just like a week ago were with in Vegas. We all
Mm,
met up, right?
mm,
One of the guys in it, he wasn't in Vegas though, but like whenever I became a part and I had talking to all of them for like 2 months or so, there's one guy in there and we were talking about like where we're from and stuff. And he's like, oh, I'm from South Carolina. I'm like, oh, I'm from North Carolina, but I was at the state line. And
mm.
he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I used to work at like this place. And he's like, you talking about in like this city? And I'm like, yeah. Turns out he and his wife, who still actually works there, works with one of my older brothers and live like 20 minutes away from like my hometown home.
Hmm.
So whenever I went home at one point and I was getting these tattoos, him and his wife actually came up there and sat with me for a
Oh
little bit and
wow,
we just got to talking. Yeah, and it's crazy how like small the world is to
that's
me.
so
Just
sick. And
still.
I'm gonna go
Oh
off
yeah.
this. Nobody, which it doesn't really matter. But nobody knows this yet because I just now got these plans figured out. But because you're talking about
Uh-huh.
this, I have my closest ever gaming buddy, his name's Leif Eats Lemons. He's the one
Uh-huh.
I was telling you about, and
Yes.
I look forward to the day that I can meet him. That's definitely going to be kind of my all time because he's been there with me through so much. But somebody else that's been there for me is this guy and girl, Blake and Divine. They're
You
a
were telling me
couple.
about them too, yeah.
I told you a little bit about them, and so I had actually just got confirmed yesterday that I'm going to go and meet them next weekend.
That is
I I
awesome.
had already told you I had previously met them just a
Yeah.
little bit before. But so he ended up living in Colorado, and I don't know if they want docs, so I won't say where they live now, but he lived in
Right.
Colorado and ended up making a life-changing decision to go live with her. And they
Yeah.
moved out. He traveled, 15 hours to go and start his new life, and the job and facility or the company that he was working for was another company that was just shortly away from where her and her family lived. And so they had moved down and got all there. And so we had been making some plans here and there. And so, yeah, this weekend I'm going to go and hang out with them for a whole weekend. It's kind of going to be the last
That is
fun thing me and my
so
fiance will be
exciting.
able to do for the year. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
it is insane to know not only how small the world is, but how much if you take time to connect with people and you build those
Mhm.
relationships, you will never think a year or two down the road that you would be end up meeting them, hanging out with them, and
Oh, yeah.
having a connection like you used to be in high school together, and
Yeah.
with them, I've been friends with them for almost probably about 3 years, and I would have never imagined saying the words that I'm going to go hang out at their house with them next weekend. Like it's
Yeah.
surreal, and it's like that's kind of like everybody wants that moment. Like a lot of us gamers long for the moment, be like, oh, like yeah, I'm gonna go meet up with him and meet up with her. But it's like it's possible, but it's not if you don't start it. If you don't start that relationship,
Exactly.
and if you don't keep tabs, if you just say hey every now and then, it's not gonna be a real thing. And it really it really educates you because I'm sure whenever we go there and do all that, it's going to give me so many new experiences and just all these memories and stuff and just so much more tools like I said that you can use, and if you just start that process and build that friendship, you never know what it could turn into.
I mean, it's amazing. We had the friends that I'm with in the Boom Squad, we had last May because that's when EDC was in Vegas. We had all after they were talking about it, and you're like, you know what? Next year, let's just all go together. So we all bought a ticket. So in May, like coming up, I'm gonna be going back to Vegas to meet up with them again. I have another trip planned in like January to go on for like another streamer friend. And Vegas was just, I mean, it wasn't the first time that I had met other like gaming friends, but I think
Mhm.
this was the first time I had met other streamer friends. And just seeing all of our personalities in one place, there was 9 of us. Seeing all of our personalities in one place was just, it was amazing. I think it's the best trip I've ever been on. It was the first time I'd been to Vegas. And so like that was a little overwhelming. I'm going to a place that I've never been to, but I'm seeing all these amazing people. And it was just, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I
Yeah.
will always cherish it for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's kind of my biggest thing too. Like, when that day comes and when we're all sitting there together, I'm gonna be thinking back into all these games and all these laughs that we played, and all these things are gonna hit me and be like, wow, like I'm here now. Like those moments and those clips that were featured in my videos and my content and stuff, like these were the people that helped me, make who I
Yeah.
am, and it's just surreal, and you never know the kind of difference it's gonna make, and I just feel like a lot of people need that mental reset, and it's like it's just kind of some. It's the same thing of like wanting to be a creator, and then you finally make it as a creator. Like it's obviously not the same thing, but it's the same goal. You start a relationship with a buddy just for kicks and giggles. It ends up being somebody that
Yeah.
you may or may not talk to every day, and now you're going and hanging out with them and helping them with their life, and they help you with yours. Like it's just so
Yeah.
surreal.
I
Um,
mean, the way that I met one of them, which is like Tommy United is like the big part of like the Boom Squad.
mhm.
He's the top dog, right? The way that I had met them is I was on COD in a search and destroy lobby, and he had played something on a soundboard, and it was a song I liked. So I started jamming with them on the opposite team. And Tommy hits me with this quote that he loves to use, and he's like, "Do you like to party?" And I'm like, "Psh, yeah, I like to party." And I had jumped into his stream, and then I jumped into his Discord, and like after that, like I was inseparable from them.
Yeah,
They're amazing people. It's an amazing community. And it all started with Tommy just asking me if I like to party, you
yeah,
know?
it's
Like
crazy.
it's just the little things that can turn into so big.
Yep.
And
Definitely
I
can.
don't think I'll ever forget that moment. I still remember the map we were on. I still remember what classes I was using. I remember out of them who was on the opposite team. Like it was just great.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so before we kind of get back into current day, obviously the last thing that I always like
Right.
talking about is how you got your branding and how you got your name. And I'll kind of where we talked about COD Ghost before, I'll kind of tell you a little bit about mine just because I usually don't. I've said it a bunch of times on podcast about my name and stuff, but just because you're like one of the million people that actually like ghosts, I'll say my
I
little
wouldn't even
spill.
say there's millions.
Yeah, no. But so I had, I'd been playing it. My first ever gamer tag that I called myself was random gamer with 4 sevens. I had no idea what to name myself. I was like, whatever, I'll figure it out later. Um and so I had been so my parents at 14 years old, they had finally decided to buy me Xbox Live, and I had played GTA. I got in GTA Online, played that, and had a fun time. Whatever, limited times, school the next day, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so then when the summer hit, I was really bored. I didn't really have nothing to play, and I loved playing COD Ghost. I always loved the campaign, specifically the one where you fall from the plane and you're in the
Oh
bushes with
yeah.
a knife and a pistol, and you're just going and trying to
Yes.
assassinate these guys and stuff. I would play that all the time. It was just so fun not getting caught and playing it on the hardest difficulty and stuff. And so one day I got up to play the campaign, had no idea about FaZe Clan, about COD, about montage, about nothing. And I just seen that the multiplayer was lit up. I was like, oh shit. I was like, what is this? So I clicked on it, and that's how I started, my venture into multiplayer and stuff. So I got into it. I started sniping and stuff and getting reactions and freaking noob tubing and just being a freaking menace on it. And
Oh yeah.
there was this first ever team I joined, which was a clan. It was super freaking pointless. It was such a, I guess, not dumb clan. I don't have anything against them, but it was called XGN, Exiled Gaming Network. And they was just a little clan of people that would just go around and be like, hey, do you want to join us? And it's like, if you want to join us, 1v1 someone who we think that could beat you, and if you beat them, you're in. And like it really did nothing for
Yep. That's
nobody.
how it always goes.
It really did nothing for nobody, but they asked me, they was like, do you want to be a part of it? And little of me, I was like, I'll be a part of anything. Like, sure, like I don't know what's going on. Like I don't even know what I'm doing here. And so they had, gave me whatever guy, and they say 1v1 this dude. If you win, then we will, we'll pay for you to change your name and you can join our team. I was like, sure. So we 1v1. I shit on the kid, and they was all like happy or whatever. And so at the time before currency, they had points on Microsoft points or whatever back then. And so they had given me, I think it was 1,500 points or whatever to change my name. And so I did. And they was like, hey, like it has to have XGN in your name, but it can't be random gamer. That's way too long. I was like, fuck. I was like, I don't know. And so I started thinking, about my sniping and the kill feed and just seeing my name in there all the time. I was like, feed. So I was like, sure. I was like, I like seeing my name in the kill feed. I like impressing people, and I like hitting my shots. And so I just called myself Feeds. And ever since then, being on Ghost, that being kind of where and that was all the way back in 2015, 2014, 15, one of the two. I didn't get into gaming or anything until 2016. But just getting my name there and having all those experiences and the freaking probably well over 1,000 hours playing Ghosts, and it was just surreal. And so that's where Feedsid came from, and I've had that name ever since.
Dude, that is awesome. I wish my story was as cool as that. So my brother, I'd said that he had like had a clan, and then like we had all had been a part of that. So my first ever gamer tag was Thermal Sniper. I laugh at it so much because like that's what I had came up with, because I did like to do like the sniping and stuff. My brother's is Thermal Degree. He has a friend right now that's, because he still goes on with it, he's been Thermal Degree. My other brother was like, what was it, like Thermal Parkour or something like that. His friend was Thermal Dew. Like there was a thermal thing going, and I'd kind of got like tired of that for a little while. And I was like, you know what? I want to do something of my own. Well, one of my older brothers, Dylan, was into hacking and modding around those times. And he gave me a list of gamer tags. And I'm like, well, half of these are modded. I'm not trying to look like I do that.
Yeah.
And the one that had stood out to me was Sterling Haze. I was like, I really like this one. I know it kind of gives like a little bit of a sparkle to it. As a female, it kind of is like the female aspect of it too.
Yeah.
And at the time, I actually didn't know that Sterling Haze was a strain of marijuana. So it's kind of funny now because like I don't smoke. I'm in the military. I can't do it. but my name is a strain of marijuana, and it's kind of just like taken off from there.
Yeah.
And talking about like the whole clans thing, gosh, and Ghost, where you would 1v1 to be a part of a clan, it started bringing back memories. I was a part of this one clan, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of it. But we had like a guys section and a girls section, which the girls section I had kind of branched off because I told them, I was like, I want to get more girls into this, you know.
Yeah.
Once they had like accepted me into it, I had 1v1 my way in. And I was like, what if we, for now on, because like there was a first letter of it and it was a G, so it was like, oh, I can't remember the name of it. So what we did was, or it was a B. So what we did for the girls part, they would just change the first letter to like a G.
Mm.
And we had started doing that. And then like I was 1v1ing girls to get like into the clan because I was over like the majority of like the girls in the clan. And oh my God, the memories that just flooded through was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's like thinking back in it now, like if we were to do that today, it'd be like corny and cringy and stuff. But like
yes, but like
back,
that's how
yeah,
it
like,
was.
yeah. It's
Oh,
not
it was
normalized anymore, but it's nice being able to have those memories and stuff because
yes.
it kind of gives you a newfound I mean, it does give you a newfound respect, but it also gives you a lot of disrespect because you're like, man, like I wish it could just be just as simple back then. And this obviously is not simple now. Like it's way more competitive and difficult, and a lot of people get their feelings hurt and stuff, and people just don't know how to have a fun time anymore.
People don't. It's depressing.
So you know, talking about all that, you know, we talked about gaming and streaming and your kind of branding of your name. So I want to fast forward now into some kind of general based questions before we wrap everything up here that I usually ask. The first one is obviously about mental health. I talk about it a lot, about breaking through, networking, sending that message, you know, reaching out to people or playing with other people. So for people that struggle, you know, making those connections, or people that are in your streams and it's like they really want to play with Sterling, but they're afraid of how she's going to react and they're just in their own head or whatever, you know, for people that struggle making connections or even just hitting that start streaming button, what would your advice be to them?
My advice would be to just ask, you know. It sounds, in this day and age, no sounds like such a harsh word. And, you know, I'll have people that do come into my stream and ask me to play, but like at the time, I'm just, you know, just gaming by myself, you know, or like I'll be gaming with some other streamer friends, so I can't just let certain people in. But I'm like, you know, me saying no, don't take it in a bad way. Because there's also going to be times I'm going to say yes because I'm like, absolutely, like get in here, you know. I love bringing new people in and playing with them and just like figuring out who they are. So if you're ever told no by someone, even if it's not just me, don't be afraid to ask again at some point because it's a 50-50 chance. It's as simple to say no as it is to say yes. So if somebody ever tells you no, don't let that stop you or get you down because it is a harsh word, but I never like to use the word no. And I've never liked to use the word hate. That's another thing. I hate the word hate. That's the only thing I hate in life. And, you know, sometimes you just got to put yourself out there, even if you're scared of rejection, because the worst thing is somebody's going to tell you no. And then that's that, you know?
Yeah.
You can't you can't dwell on it too much. You kind of just have to like take it as it is and just keep moving forward with it. And you never know the reaction you're going to get from someone. That's scary at times. But even not knowing that reaction and still asking anyways can be one of the best things you've ever done. Because what if you would have never asked that question?
Yep.
You know, what if Tommy would have never asked me if I liked the party?
Yeah.
Could I have said no and then like that would have been that? Yeah, but you know, he still asked.
Yeah,
You never know what kind of answer
I think that's
get.
kind of the thing. It's usually the most simplest things that can turn into something amazing, and it's just people overthinking things or just not thinking of it, or you know, that's we're all kind of, you know, a part of the reason you'd be like, oh, like I'm not feeling it today, like oh, like no thank you or whatever, and it's like it's tough and it's a battle, and you know that's a big part of mental health is being able to you know knock out the demon, saying you know chill out for the day, don't talk to nobody. You know, so it is tough, but at the same time, like you have to do it. You know, nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And if you give off the energy that you don't care, then they're going to perceive it as you don't care, and they'll go on about their day and find somebody else that does.
And you know, I've always been a big mental health advocate with being in the military because people don't see like that side of like what's going on, because you never know what's going on in somebody's life
Yeah.
unless you ask or unless they tell you. And I always like to be this uplifting person because like we talked about off stream, it only takes one positive person in a room to bring up the room. And it also only takes one negative person in a room to bring it down. And I never want to be that negative person. I always want to be the person that's going to be able to bring it up, take somebody that's coming into my stream, a little depressed, just kind of like looking through people. I want to be that person that like they forget about what's going on in their life for a moment, or they feel like they can reach out to me and talk to me about it. And being able to do that for others is just, it's so uplifting, knowing that I can do that for others, and the feeling that I get like whenever I meet my friends, knowing that they do the same for me.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is for sure. So before we wrap up everything, I have two more questions that I'll ask you here. So the first one, I always bring this up anytime that there's any women that want to be a part of this podcast. I do try to have a small section for you guys because you guys go through a lot of more different battles than us guys go through. I mean, we have our own fair share of battles, but you guys do have a lot bigger struggles sometimes than we do. And it's stupid. You guys shouldn't, we should all, at the end of the day, be treated equal and stuff. And I don't really speak on the topic. I love hearing you guys' perspective of it because I don't want to be perceived as anything or whatever. But I'll always ask kind of a plain point of, for women that struggle, starting live, they are going to get called out. They don't want to put their face cam on. They struggle with making other girlfriends and stuff. What advice would you give to get them out of their comfort zone for ones that really want to do it, but they're holding themselves back?
All right, listen, if you're a female and you're listening, I need you to listen closely, okay? There's always going to be haters out there. One of my friends here recently, she got her first guy hater that was like, oh, you're a female, that's why you get the views, this, and this. That's one person out of such a big world. And even for the guys that are like listening, not everyone in this world is going to like you. It's such a big world, but there is always the people that do, and the people that are willing to, and the people that are going to. And you can't let that stop you from being yourself. There's so many different personalities in this world, and you don't want to hide yours away just because other people want to be rude or be mean. And like when it comes to girls that want to get into gaming, but they're like, oh, if I get on COD, I breathe the wrong way. And it's just like, I get all this backlash while I'm playing. When it comes to like me getting into a game, if I'm the type of person, I give you the vibes you give me. If a guy's talking shit to me, I'm bringing it right back. And at the end of the day, most likely the people that are saying all these weird things to you or like saying these super negative things to you, you could never run into them again. You could never see them again. And you can't dwell on what they said to you, because I guarantee you they've been talking so much crap online and stuff that when they lay their head down at night, they don't even remember you. So you can't let what they have to say get to you and bother you, because that's just them being them. It's part of the toxic things of COD or like in gaming, sadly. There's always going to be those people out there, but you never know when you get into a lobby if you'll find those people or if you'll find some of the best friends that you've ever met. And that's what keeps me going with it, because like I could get into a lobby and I could meet somebody that like 10 years down the road I'm still going to be friends with. Or I could get into a lobby and it's just going to be a guy talking crap and I'm never going to see him again. It's so hard at first not to dwell on those things, but once you get past it, it is so life-changing, because there are so many people out there that could appreciate you or could like see you as like one of these most amazing people. And you can't let the negatives, because there's negativity in everything you do in life. Whenever you go to work, you're going to find a coworker you don't like, but you're also going to find that one coworker that you stick around with. You go out in public and you'll just run into somebody random and you just become absolutely amazing friends, or you run into somebody random and it's somebody that you wish you'd never run into again, which is the same aspect. It sucks being a female when it comes to like the streaming or into that, because you're going to have all these haters come in. But one of my favorite parts is whenever a hater comes into my stream and it's maybe somebody that I was playing COD with and they were like, "Oh, you're fat, you're ugly, you know, you got purple hair," or something like that. And then they come into my stream and they see who I am and their mood completely changes because they realize I'm not the stereotype that everyone tries to play it out to be. And their mood changes and you're just like, "Oh, one of my best friends, he actually was talking shit to me in a lobby, came into my stream, and then we became best friends," you know? You never know how you're going to meet people. And it's funny also when somebody will come into your stream to continue to talk trash and your community is there.
Yeah.
And your community is just, they have your back. Your friends are always going to have your back. And I'm so glad that's something that I didn't let stop me. Luckily, I grew up with older brothers and was already used to the trash talking and getting bullied. And, you know, so whenever it came to me getting on COD, I fire it right back.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I hope that anybody that is listening that struggle with those type of battles and stuff, I hope that definitely does help you. The last question that I have is usually something I don't bring up, but obviously you're a big advocate about your military personnel and things you went through in other battles and stuff. So I'm not a part of that world. I don't know. My brother is in the Air Force, but I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm not going to sit here and preach and say I understand. But clearly, mental health very hugely revolves around people in the military and stuff. So for people that are in the military that have gone through things and they've, whether it's deployments or whether they just have family battles, they go for a year or two and they come back and they have nobody to talk to, they have no family or whatever, and they want to stream and they want to build that community to kind of fill the gap, but they're scared. You know, for the military people out there, what advice would you give them to get out of their comfort zone?
Just, you know, just talk to someone. It sucks dealing with like mental health, like the things that I see some of my friends go through that are in the military that don't even stream, you know, or I do have some that also stream. It's just, it's a hard topic. I mean, just watching them go through it, it sucks. And like I go through things too that like people would never imagine that I've actually went through. Being able to have that person to talk to about things can change so much for you. Because if you bottle that stuff in, you're only going to make it worse on yourself. Because at one point, either you're going to bottle in so much to where you blow up into like this person you've never wanted to be, or it gets the best of you, sadly. And just having someone to talk to and to get an opinion on, because, you know, you could be going through something and you could start talking to somebody and they've either went through it, they've known somebody that's went through it that they can connect you to, or they can give you a whole different perspective of it. And I've always wanted to be that person for like the people that I've worked with or other streamers that I know that are in the military that understand it, you know, when it comes to our jobs, you know. Somebody asked me last night why I don't have a set streaming schedule. And it's like every single time I try to throw something crazy at me and I can't do the schedule that I was planning to do, you know, and it sucks to not be able to have that set schedule, but there's a lot of people that understanding of it. And I try to give like a day or two notice when I'm going to stream or like, you know, surprise, here I am.
Yeah.
And it's hard being away from your family or your friends back home. But luckily in this day and age, we have Discord, we have FaceTime, we have all these social medias that we're able to still stay connected to them. And that's something I will never take for granted, ever. You know, just being able to pick up my phone and call my mom. It's life-changing. And some people don't have that, sadly. You know, if they're on a deployment and they can't tell their family where they're at, or they're having to just send letters and not being able to know what's going on back at home. And it's scary. But having someone to talk to about it, and some people in the military, especially guys, they do have a hard time talking to other people because they don't want to seem as weak.
Right.
We're the military. We're not weak. You know, they got that mindset, or like, what if my friends see me differently? I guarantee you that doesn't matter. because I guarantee you, your friends are going to be the one that is going to be there for you the most and is going to understand it. And it's just, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to get past that feeling of what if they see me as weak? Because I feel like somebody that's able to talk about their struggles and what they've overcome or what they're going through now, I see those people as the strongest. Being able to deal with it and be able to talk about it, or like be able to put that out there, to be able to let down your guard with like some of your closest friends. Those are the strongest people I've ever met.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the old saying of, using your using your weakness as a strength. Holy.
Exactly. You're right. I mean, it's a hard thing to do.
I think that I feel like, definitely in the military world too. I could envision. I don't know what my English is right now. I'm messing up. I can envision, having a drill sergeant or something that has went through all of that and they were strong and talked about it and got help and stuff. Then they're helping somebody. It's like, Sarge, I can't. I have this and that. And he's like, yep, me too. Me too. It's like, I feel like that, that gives you that experience to be like, just because I'm weak doesn't mean that I'm not strong. It just means that I'm struggling and I need to find guidance. And I feel like that's just something a lot of people struggle with. And it's the simplest thing in the world. I mean, if you're trying to hide something from someone because you're afraid to look weak, then what do you think of yourself? If you're afraid that everybody else views you as weak, if you view yourself as weak, then what does it matter? Because we all need to be strong at the end of the day, because there's going to be a time where you have to be strong for somebody else. And if you can't be strong for yourself, there's no way they're going to depend on you.
There's no way you're going to do it for someone else. And I always want to be that person for others. And I'm glad that I have other people to do that for me, It's one of the toughest things is letting that guard down. But it's so worth it in the end.
Yeah, so for anybody that is watching that has, any of these questions or anything that I've brought up and that Sterling has kind of answered and gave her advice on, I really do hope that helps, because it is very important that we raise awareness for mental health and just make sure that people talk through their battles and stuff, because at the end of the day, we all get one life, so there's no reason to hide away from things just because you personally feel like it's just going to be a waste of time, because it's not. Because what's a waste of time is that you're not wanting to try to get better.
Exactly. And for the people that want someone that they don't even know, that doesn't even know them, my DMs are always open.
100%.
Because sometimes you need that perspective from someone that has no idea who you are. It makes you feel a little bit better about it,
Yeah.
My DMs are open.
Yeah, and that's actually also a perfect point. I've not said this in quite a couple podcasts. I usually do say it on a decent amount of them. That's one of the coolest things that I've kind of built into the Twitter page of Feeds Mindset is in the bio. It says, members, that's been on the podcast, they're followed. And so what it is that way, if they were to watch and they were to see me and Sterling have this conversation, she's like, oh, she's a really good, cool girl, whatever. Then they're going to click on that list, see everybody that's been on there, and see all these other ladies or men that's on there. And that way you can know that, just like I was telling you last night, the coolest thing about it is they all have something in common, which is talking to me. And that's a way that I keep my friend group close, is because if I support you, there's no reason that somebody else shouldn't support you, because that's that's my goal as a creator, is to trust me enough to where if you see somebody else and I vouch for them, you don't even have to blink when it comes to hanging out with them.
Exactly.
Because you're automatically going to know they're good people.
About it. Yeah.
So that's definitely a big thing, and obviously her DMs are always open. Mine are always open if you guys need anything, but I definitely encourage you, if you're going through something and you don't know who you want to talk to or whatever, click on that following list at my Twitter page. Just look through those people, check them out, and any one of them will be more than happy to talk to you. So before we wrap things up here, is there anything that you're excited about that you want to bring up and share with your community before we end off?
Oh, yes. My community has been absolutely a blessing this month of October. My grandmother was diagnosed with cancer for the 3rd time in her life. So I found that out at the end of September. And when, one of my friends got together and came up with this idea of doing kind of like, it's a subathon, but it's not a subathon because I'm not streaming every day for like hours upon hours. It's just the whole month of October, any earnings that I've gotten from Kick streaming, is going directly to my grandmother. And she has no idea. And I'm super excited. You know, it's sad that this month is coming to an end, but I'm so excited to be able to give that to her. I'm not going to be able to do it there, you know, because I'm in Florida. So I'm going to record it so I can share it with the people that have supported this. Because I mean, I have a list. Every person that is like gifted is on this board. I mean, looking at all those names is just insane to me.
Yeah, and I think I don't have a genuine reaction because I already kind of knew this before you had told me about this, which of course I think that is wholesome and amazing, and I think that's going to be awesome after all the emotional stuff happens and you show her that board and just seeing all these random creators and these weird names that you would never think of and people that want to see her prosper and be better. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what a community can do when you give them your heart and when you tell them what your actual goals are.
My grandmother is one of the most kind-hearted, selfless people I've ever met. She'll do absolutely anything for anyone if she can. And it feels good to be able to do that for her. And she has no idea. I mean, when she found out I was going to Vegas and she was like, oh, win me some money and bring it back. And I'm like, you know what? I got you. And she has no idea what I'm doing right now, that my community and my friends have came together and has right now over $1,000 for her, just waiting on her. And she has no idea. I know I'm going to cry. I know she's going to cry.
Of course, yeah.
It's going to be very emotional.
It's a moment that'll last a lifetime for sure. And it's that. I mean, this
and a lot of people want to see it. So whenever I record it and I'm going to post about it, you know, and put it out there. And I feel like that's going to make a lot of people on the list feel like what they did is going to something very well.
100%. And I think that's the other thing too, is that, you know, we all want to kind of be a part of something. And I had actually told you this off stream whenever we had talked a couple of days ago about my buddy Leafy's Lemons, where he did his charity stream for Stop Soldier Suicide. I can never say that like specific name. It's a tongue twister.
It's a tongue twister.
But it's obviously revolves around mental health for people that have gone through things and trying to get better. And he had raised $500 for it, and a company had doubled the money, you know, anything that he makes. And so I had donated $5 just to help out. I'd never really donated to a charity before, but I'm for the cause. And then he had told me how they're doubling, you know, any money that he makes. So my 5 turned to 10, you know, without even knowing it. And then to be able to see him share and tweet about it and then click on their page and see people that these lives have impacted and stuff, it makes a big difference and really changes your mentality when you see, you know, they just donate $5, $10, $15 or whatever to you to give to your grandmother. And when that day happens and when the glorious day comes and all that cool stuff happens, they're going to be sitting there watching their screen saying, I don't really know Sterling at all. I have no idea who this random lady is, but I've helped her through a time because of my decision. And it's just the most beautiful thing in the world. I mean, it's kind of like art in a way.
Oh, yeah. It was very scary to put it out there too, you know, to like do that. And it's still very scary to put out the video of like when I give it to her, because, you know, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
But I do know that like the people that have donated and the people that have like seen everything that's happening and the people that I've updated about it, whenever they see it happen, that it's going to hold a special place in their heart too.
Definitely. So yeah, before we wrap up everything, the last final thing for everybody that's watching, anybody in your community, random people or from my community, is there any last words that you have for them before we end off today?
Never be afraid to be who you are. Never be afraid to do that, because you are who you are for a reason. You've turned into who you are because of things that have happened in your past. And don't let that stop you from keep being you, because everyone's going to be themselves too. You don't want to be like somebody else. That's boring.
Yep.
Being yourself is like the best thing that you could ever do.
It's so simple. You can do it.
It's simple.
It's all on you. But, yeah. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to check out Sterling's Twitter, drop below her head. In her description is all her links. You can go and check her out. Sterling, of course, thank you so much for your time today and being able to come and hang out.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy about this, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's awesome being able to have you on. You know, my heart goes out to your grandmother, and I hope all that works
I
out.
appreciate that so
I'm
much.
proud of the community you've built, and also just your community in general. If any of them are tapping and watching, and even you know, you don't even have to support the cause. Just being able to watch her and prosper for it, you know, just being a part of the movement is really the end goal here. It's never about
Exactly.
financial compensation. It's just knowing that when we all go through something or have our own battles, that you know, just being a viewer can just make an ultimate difference than more than
Oh
you
yeah.
know. But yeah, so anybody that's watching, I hope you guys enjoy. This has been episode 29, I think. I'm pretty sure if the math heads up in my head.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. This has been Feeds Mindset with Sterling. My name is Feeds, and I'm out, guys.